I achieved the American dream, every single item on my list, and it meant nothing. I'm 92, and I wasted 50 years chasing the wrong things. Let me tell you what happened. It started with my father. He worked in a factory for 43 years. His hands were always stained. He'd point at the men in suits and say, "That's the ticket, Artie. You sell your brains, not your back." I carried that like a duty. I got the scholarship, the suit, the job. When I got my first office job, he cried. The only time I ever saw him cry. I thought I'd made it. I bought a Cadillac in 1957. The chrome was blinding. My wife Eleanor stood beside me. She wanted a bigger yard for the kids. Michael was 4. Sarah was a baby. I told her the car was an investment. Clients need to see success, I said. I drove it home feeling like a king. That night I sat in the driveway after Eleanor went inside. I listened to the engine tick as it cooled. The silence felt heavy. The years became a blur. I was a ghost in my own home. I missed Michael's first home run. I missed Sarah's school play. Eleanor stopped leaving me notes about these things. We'd sit in the living room at night. The silence was filled with things we didn't know how to say. I told myself it was the sacrifice, the price of the dream. Then, in 1984, Michael was 17. We were in the kitchen. He was applying to colleges. I started my speech about business school, about legacy. He looked at me with pity. "I don't want your life, Dad," he said. "I see what it did to you, to Mom." He wanted to study forestry, work outside. I blustered about security. He just shook his head and walked away. That was the first crack. My son saw the trap before I did. I didn't change. I doubled down. I got the corner office. The view was of other offices. I bought a vacation home, a boat we never used. Eleanor and I hosted parties. We talked about markets and golf. I'd look at her across the room. She was polished and distant, a partner in the performance. The house was so quiet. They gave me a gold watch at my retirement party in 1999. There were speeches about my legacy. I stood there smiling, feeling like an imposter. Later, at home, I panicked. Who was I without the title? Eleanor found me sitting in the dark. She didn't speak. She just sat with me. The silence felt shared for the first time in decades. It was a beginning. Retirement was hard. We tried to travel. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. with nowhere to go. We had to relearn each other. It was awkward. I tried to make schedules. Eleanor finally snapped, "Arthur, I am not one of your departments." It was a fight, but it was real. We started taking walks, just walks. We began to talk. Then in 2008, Michael visited. He asked for my help building a treehouse for his daughter, Lily. I was baffled. I'm a retired executive. I don't build things. He smiled. "You have 2 hands, Dad. Let's learn." Those afternoons were a revelation. Sawdust, sunburn, Lily's laughter. One day, sanding a railing, Michael said, "This is a legacy, Dad. This right here." He was stating a fact. I finally understood the difference between a monument and a memory. I began to write in a journal. I showed some pages to Eleanor. She cried. Then she brought out her own journals. We read them to each other. We were meeting for the first time at 82. We planted a garden. It was messy. Things died. We tried again. What if I had defined success by moments, not milestones? A quiet breakfast, teaching my son to ride a bike, being present. Those things were free. They only required my attention, which I gave to everything else. Don't confuse the map for the territory. Don't decorate the cage. The real treasures are in the ordinary moments you're too busy to notice. I look at young people now and I want to tell them. But you can't tell someone. They have to feel it for themselves. Maybe that's why I'm talking to you. Maybe a story can make you feel it. After the garden, after the journals, Eleanor and I had about 10 good years. Real years. We fought sometimes. Real fights about real things, not just quiet disappointment. It was messy. It was alive. We'd hold hands watching the news. We'd get ice cream for no reason. Simple things. They felt like miracles. Then she got sick. It was a slow fade. I became her caregiver. I fed her soup. I read to her. I held her hand when she was scared. This was the real work, the most important work of my life. All those years managing budgets, and this was what mattered, being there, being present. One afternoon, she was very tired. She looked at me and said, "Artie, we finally made it." She wasn't talking about the house or the money. She was talking about us, being us. She died a week later. It hurt. It still hurts. But I was there. I didn't miss it. Now it's just me in this house. But it's different. The quiet isn't empty anymore. It's full of her, full of the memories we finally made. My son Michael calls every Sunday. My daughter Sarah visits with her kids. They know me now, the real me, not the executive. The grandkids ask about the treehouse. I tell them I built it with their dad. That's my legacy. Not a name on a door. A story they tell. So here's what I learned too late. The dream they sell you is about more. More money, more status, more things. But life is about less. Less distraction, less noise, less chasing. It's about paying attention to the people right in front of you. Your family, your friends, the cashier at the store. That's the real connection. That's the real wealth. I have all this money. I can't take it with me. I can't buy back one single moment I missed. Not Michael's home run, not Sarah's play, not 1,000 quiet breakfasts with Eleanor. Those were the treasures. And I traded them for a corner office with a view of a brick wall. Don't do what I did. Please. Look at your life right now. Are you happy? I mean really happy? Or are you just busy? Are you just climbing? Stop. Just stop. Breathe. Look at who you love. Talk to them. Listen. Really listen. That's the only thing that will matter in the end. I'm 92. I know. I'm 92. I know. And knowing is a heavy thing. It sits in your chest. After Eleanor was gone, the house was quiet again. But like I said, it was a different quiet. For a while, it was okay. I had my routines, the garden, my journal. Then, about a year after she passed, I was going through the attic. I was looking for an old photo album Michael had asked about. I found a box I'd forgotten. It was labeled Office. Inside were my plaques, my awards, a stack of old business cards, and at the bottom, a small, flat package wrapped in brown paper. I opened it. It was a child's drawing, faded, a crayon picture of a stick figure man in a car. On the back, in Eleanor's handwriting, it said, "Michael, age 5, Daddy's new car. He was so proud of you that day." I sat on the attic floor, dust swirling in the light from the single bulb. I looked at that drawing. I remembered that day. I'd come home with the Cadillac. Michael had been so excited. He'd wanted me to take him for a ride right then. I had a conference call. I told him, "Later, champ." Later never came. I was always going to take him for that ride. I never did. I held that piece of paper and I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since my father died. This was different. This was for everything. For all the later champs I never made good on. For all the rides I never took. That was the breaking point, the deepest low. I realized I hadn't just missed moments, I had missed a life. Theirs. And mine. I'd traded my son's pride for a client's impression. I'd traded my wife's conversation for a quarterly report. I sat in that attic for hours, surrounded by the artifacts of a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. The awards felt like accusations. The quiet in the house wasn't peaceful anymore. It was loud with all the sounds I'd missed. Sarah practicing the piano, Eleanor humming in the kitchen, Michael's friends laughing in the backyard. I had paid for this silence with everything that ever mattered. A few days later, Sarah came to visit. We were having coffee. I was still carrying that drawing in my pocket. I took it out. I showed it to her. My hand was shaking. I said, "I found this. I never took him for that ride." She looked at it. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I know, Dad." Just that. I know. She reached over and put her hand on mine. "We knew you loved us. Mom made sure we knew. But you weren't there. You were just gone." She wasn't angry. She was just stating a fact, like Michael had in the backyard. It was the truth. And it broke me clean in two. I had believed the sacrifice was for them, but they never wanted the sacrifice. They just wanted me. That's the cost. That's what I lost. I lost my family's everyday life. I lost the man I could have been for them. I built a shell of success and lived inside it. And by the time I tried to get out, half the life I was meant to live was over. I look at my hands now. They're old. They held so many steering wheels, so many pens, so many glasses of scotch at the end of empty days. I wish they had held more small hands. I wish they had fixed more toys. I wish they had been there, present, instead of always reaching for the next thing on that damned list. The hardest moment wasn't in the attic. It was sitting with Sarah, hearing her say, "You weren't there," and knowing she was right. Knowing I had chosen the cage and locked the door myself. Knowing I had chosen the cage and locked the door myself was the truth I needed to finally break free. Here's what I learned, sitting in the dust of that attic. Love isn't a trophy you earn by providing. It's a presence you offer by showing up. All those years, I thought my duty was to build a fortress of security around my family. But they didn't need a fortress. They needed a father who came to the school play. They needed a husband who listened to his wife's day, not just his own stock quotes. I was building walls when I should have been building bridges, and I was the one stranded on the other side. The mistake was believing the dream was about things. The house, the car, the title. Those are just props. The real work, the only work that leaves a mark on the world, is the work of attention. It's looking your child in the eye when they talk to you. It's noticing the new dress your wife is wearing and meaning it when you say she looks beautiful. It's putting down the newspaper, turning off the television, and being in the room. Not just your body, your heart, your mind. I was so busy managing my career, I forgot to inhabit my life. I scheduled meetings with clients, but never an afternoon with my son. I invested in portfolios, but I didn't invest minutes, the only currency that truly runs out. So my advice, especially if you're my age, is this: stop performing. Just stop. You're retired from that job. Retire from the performance too. Don't try to be the successful grandfather, the pillar of the community, the person with all the answers. Just be the person who shows up. Be curious. Ask your grandchildren questions and actually listen to their answers. Tell your children you're sorry for the times you weren't there. It's not too late to say it. Say it plainly. I'm sorry I missed your play. I'm sorry I was always so tired. They may already know, but they need to hear it from you. It unlocks something for everyone. And with your partner, if you're lucky enough to still have them, don't just coexist, rebuild. It's awkward. It's hard. Do it anyway. Apologize for the quiet years. Then fill the time you have left with real noise, with conversation, with silly arguments, with shared ice cream cones. There is hope. It's not the hope of a fresh start because we can't start over, but we can start where we are. I had 10 years with Eleanor after the wake-up call. 10 real years. That was enough to build a lifetime of love on top of the foundation of duty. It was enough for my children to see me change, and in that change, to finally meet the man they'd always hoped was inside the suit. You may not have 10 years. You may have 1 or 5. But now is enough. This afternoon is enough. The phone call you make today is enough. The walk you take, the memory you share, the story you write down for them, it's enough. It becomes the new story they tell about you. It becomes the legacy that actually matters. That's why I'm talking to you. If this story resonated with you, even a little, don't let it end here. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. It's not for me, it's so you don't miss the next story that might shake you awake. Give this a like if you've ever felt the ache of chasing something hollow. And in the comments, I want you to tell me one small thing. What's one moment you don't want to miss this week? A coffee with a friend? Tucking your child into bed? Write it down. Making it real is the first step. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. A friend, a parent, a colleague who's burning themselves out. You might just hand them a key to their own cage. And if you have a story like mine, there's a link below to submit it. Your wisdom is needed. We have to tell each other the truth. Finally, if you want to sit with these ideas, I've put a short list of books that helped me in the description. They're not about business. They're about being human. That's the only real work in the end. The quiet, humble, breathtaking work of being a human being for and with other human beings. Don't wait. The clock is ticking, but it's not an enemy. It's just a reminder that right now is all we ever really have. Then, in 1984, Michael was 17. We were in the kitchen. He was applying to colleges. I started my speech about business school, about legacy. He looked at me with pity. "I don't want your life, Dad," he said. "I see what it did to you, to Mom." He wanted to study forestry, work outside. I blustered about security. He just shook his head and walked away. That was the first crack. My son saw the trap before I did. I didn't change. I doubled down. I got the corner office. The view was of other offices. I bought a vacation home, a boat we never used. Eleanor and I hosted parties. We talked about markets and golf. I'd look at her across the room. She was polished and distant, a partner in the performance. The house was so quiet. They gave me a gold watch at my retirement party in 1999. There were speeches about my legacy. I stood there smiling, feeling like an imposter. Later, at home, I panicked. Who was I without the title? Eleanor found me sitting in the dark. She didn't speak. She just sat with me. The silence felt shared, for the first time in decades. It was a beginning. Retirement was hard. We tried to travel. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. with nowhere to go. We had to relearn each other. It was awkward. I tried to make schedules. Eleanor finally snapped, "Arthur, I am not one of your departments." It was a fight, but it was real. We started taking walks, just walks. We began to talk.